Hi, Demetrius Sherrod here in the Cobb TV studio for Chatting with the DPS Director. And today I'm joined by two guests, Director Mike Register and Training Unit Commander Captain Terry Blackmer. Thank you both for being here. Director, we'll start with you.
Okay.
Now, the budget has been passed, so what can we expect for fiscal year 20?
Well, the budget has been passed, and let me first say that I want to thank, on behalf of all the men and women of the Department of Public Safety, I want to thank the commissioners for passing the budget that really impacts all employees, and specifically today we'll talk about how it impacts DPS employees. All employees will receive a raise, but specifically I want to talk about the sworn personnel, police and fire, in the police department. Currently, the sworn personnel will get 7%. That is a 7% raise based on what their salary is. It has nothing to do with the market control point. Whatever they're making, they should receive a 7% pay increase to sworn personnel. And I think it's very important to understand that, and also with each pay grade, that is going to shift, as we talked about last time, 4% to the right. That's going to help the minimum, the midpoint, and the maximum. So it's not only going to help from a retention standpoint with our current incumbent officers, but hopefully the starting pay is going to increase this upcoming fiscal year, which is going to help our recruiting efforts. And when we talk about recruiting efforts, another thing that passed within the budget was the $5,000 signing incentive, where if you are a certified police officer in the state of Georgia and meet our lateral officer criteria, then after completion of Phase 2 of the Field Training Officer Program, you'll receive a $5,000 signing incentive. And hopefully that helps to attract veteran officers to the Cobb County Police Department. We also know that the old news is that sworn personnel got $1,475. We're still trying to address that with some of our other DPS personnel, but that is a discussion that I am continuing to have with the county manager and the Board of Commissioners. And there's a few other things that are transpiring, but I'm really hopeful that this assists us in slowing the attrition. But I also am very hopeful that we as a team, meaning the employees, department heads, directors, and our elected and appointed officials will continue to have the conversation about what's next, meaning next fiscal year. A lot of discussion on the step and grade, and I am certain, matter of fact, I have a meeting later today about the step and grade. And so I'm very hopeful that we'll continue to have that conversation and better things to come next fiscal year.
Can you tell us about some of the operational changes that may occur this year?
Well, we're going to continue to struggle with some of the deficits we have in personnel. That has certainly affected the police department and having to look at how they manage the day-to-day operations. But we're very hopeful that our recruiting efforts will be successful. I know that from the fire department standpoint, I think that we're going to gain some traction and start working towards Station 31, which is at the airport in Kennesaw, and I think that's going to be very important and critical pertaining to the 2021 All-Star Game. Hopefully by the time the All-Star Game rolls around, we will actually have a dedicated fire station there at the airport, because we saw during the Super Bowl the tremendous amount of aircraft that were using the airport here in Cobb County to come in and out. And I think that that just enhances the overall safety, not only for the airport, but the surrounding area. And there's another initiative, and I am actually glad that Captain Blackmer is here today and was able to be here, because there's another initiative that involves our CIT program and also an initiative pertaining to a community resource officer. And since Captain Blackmer has been very instrumental in both of those programs. What I'd like to do is turn it over to her to explain to you exactly what those programs are and how that will benefit the community.
Okay, so our CIT program has multiple components to it. It stands for Crisis Intervention Training, but it's not just the training component, that's part of it, of course. Crisis intervention is that immediate action that we can take to identify those warning signals or signs, if you will, that shows when a person is exhibiting certain behaviors that demonstrate that they're in crisis. That could be mental health episodes, it could be certain drug addiction type events. And so those components that encompass our entire CIT program starts first with the training and education and providing skill sets for our officers. And what we do with that is we teach them to recognize certain behaviors and then to work to de-escalate those type of events verbally and with some other techniques, all while making sure that the officer safety and those around the officers, their safety is paramount. So, what we want to do is bring the situation, calm it down, and bring it to a successful conclusion. So that's some of the techniques that we've given to our officers. The second component to our CIT program is a community collaboration and partnership with law enforcement and government entities, as well as some of our community leaders that have been very proactive and instrumental in partnering with us, as well as mental health professionals. And we come together on a monthly basis and have really good constructive conversations. We're able to identify resources, and we're able to discuss different ways that we can keep the cycle of the crisis from continuing, meaning there's other ways to solve the problems versus incarceration or hospitalization. And then the third component of our program, and the newest initiative that we have that the director touched on, is our crisis response unit. We just started our first full-time crisis response officer. And this obviously is going to grow, the unit will grow, but to have a crisis response officer that their full-time job is to be able to do those proactive intervention strategies, to be able to establish those relationships with people in our community that we've identified as might or having been in crisis, and then work to have that relationship with them and also be able to partner with other community mental health areas in the county to then be able to solve those problems before they see law enforcement in a crisis situation.
Now, I know you touched on it a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about how the officers are trained in the CIT program?
Yeah, so one of the big things we took a proactive approach to is making sure all of our officers, and that is our new recruits coming in as well as our incumbent officers, were multifaceted in being able to receive training for their crisis intervention. Now the state offers a 40-hour certification training that we are currently working. Our absolute goal is to get 100% of our officers state certified in CIT. But in the interim, what we're doing while we have not finished that, in the interim is we've provided 24 modules that again run the gamut of mental health issues and disorders to autism, to Alzheimer's, to drug addiction.
So what kind of crisis intervention training do our police recruits get?
So we've encompassed and put a lot of training into their program as well. They start out now 32 hours of crisis intervention training. We also have specialty classes on our de-escalation techniques as well as implicit bias. The de-escalation techniques and implicit bias are post-mandated classes, but we go above and beyond that to provide practical skills and scenarios in which they can apply those techniques.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you, Captain and Director, for stopping by and sharing that information. In the meantime, make sure to stay connected with the police department by following us on all of our social media pages.